I'm Aisha. You can now watch UCF TV 24 hours a day on Bright House Digital Channel 1. Anybody who is not necessarily here for maybe extra credit, maybe just doesn't want to be here, kind of against their own will, really pretty, be honest with me. Okay, there's one honest soul. Thank you so much. Well, hopefully I will not make this 45-minute speech too long, drawn out, and boring. So I'll do my best. Bear with me. And actually, one more question. How many people would consider themselves maybe environmental activists, or somebody who's inclined to more social or environmental issues in their daily life? Okay, so we have a fair amount. So I'll have to challenge you in different ways, because it's obviously easier for me when we all think alike. So we'll have to figure out different ways of challenging one another. The title of this speech is "We Can Kick Climate Change One Step at a Time, an Expanding Role for Youth." So if this is not your final destination, you could deplane now. I always love when flight attendants say that, because what they're really trying to say in a nice way is, get off the plane, dumbass, you're going the wrong direction. I probably just jinxed myself too. I'll probably be flying back to Topeka, Kansas tonight instead of New York City, so I better watch myself. But before I get to talk about climate change, I first want to talk about you all, and not in a bad sense. Not about that kid in the second row with the really weird hair. Just kidding. Look at him, he's already, the kid's like, yeah, that's me. No, you could talk about me. I'm wearing white after Labor Day, but no, but we have to address, instead of first looking at how we could kick climate change's ass, we need to really start addressing the second half of the title, an expanding role for youth. So because what good is it if we talk about climate change if we don't know how or why we fit into the situation as individuals, and more importantly, what we're capable of accomplishing as individuals and as a collective. So we're going to be building on that idea today and our maturing role in the movement. And I'll also be adding some personal reflections and stories as a reference. So bear with me, because I hope my stories are only half as good as the ones that you will be creating here and into the future. You know, I remember sitting across from my advisor on my first day of college in freshman year, and I told her that I couldn't see myself concentrating on one specialty, and I wouldn't be interested in just being like a zoologist or an ornithologist or, you know, an entomologist or a sociologist. What interested me was the ecology and the interactions of everything. And she gave me the best advice ever. And I will never forget it. And when I told her I didn't want to concentrate on one thing, she told me, then you don't have to. Do it all. Then you don't have to. Do it all. That is a tremendous piece of advice, because it is both liberating and limitless. And it really opens you up to an ability to dream and to do. And it doesn't really put us into this societal box of expectations, which I think we so often are put in. And we don't have to be defined or confined by our titles, our majors, and other people's expectations of us. And on the contrary, it's quite the opposite. I mean, I really feel like we are a generation that is beginning to define what our lives mean for ourselves. And gone are the days when you're just one thing, and you could be one thing. You could be a lawyer, or you could be a musician, or you could be an artist, or you could be a doctor. But more and more I see people in our generation thinking outside the box a little and flirting with new ideas. A ton of my friends have started companies and nonprofits not only while they're in college, but after college. And we make our own majors. I don't know if UCF allows you to make your own majors, or double majors are more common. Are there double majors out here, or majors and minors? Right. Okay, so there's a fair number. That wasn't happening even a generation ago. I mean, you see people looking at sustainable development and economics, or landscape architecture and environmental engineering, and it's really cool. And also, studying abroad has increased, I think, to about 22%. Is anybody studying or planning to study abroad? Okay, fair amount too. This is quite unique. I think this is a unique part in our generation, and I know that there is a shift in the way our generation thinks and operates. And a few of my friends in the baby boomer era would probably tend to disagree, such as the New York Times op-ed writer Thomas Friedman, who I either find myself vehemently agreeing with or vociferously disagreeing with. One time in October 10th article, I don't know if you saw it, but he referred to our generation as Generation Q. Did anybody read that, or does anybody know what Generation Q stands for? You could scream it out if you know it. Okay, this is exactly, quiet, exactly. He referred to our generation as Generation Quiet, the quiet Americans, those of us that quietly pursue our idealism at home and abroad without any real action. Is that who we are? I mean, really, guys, is that who we are? Now, I like to consider myself and the people that I work with at the pulse of some of the grassroots movements that's happening in our generation. And when he refers to us as Generation Quiet, I don't know how that reacts with you, but to me, that makes me downright livid. And I think as somebody who's active, hearing our generation called that makes me angry. And there's just no other better way to explain that. And perhaps he wrote it as a reverse psychology piece, but I say to him, how dare he define or confine our generation, or limit our generation, or shackle our generation, and suggest that even for 1 second, that we are quiet, that we are static, and that we are silent. What happens when people tell you that you aren't good enough? We have to be careful with that, right? Because it reacts with people and with generations differently. And some of us may spend the rest of our lives proving ourselves to other people, whereas some of us will start believing that we actually aren't good enough, that maybe we aren't smart enough, that maybe we aren't hardworking enough, that maybe we are just quiet. Then we become satisfied and complacent. And the issue is not that other people come to expect it of us, but we begin expecting it of ourselves, and then we project it outwards. One thing I know is that I am not going to be one of those people that lies down and takes it. I'm not going to let myself or my generation be quiet, but I'm not going to prove it to Mr. Friedman or anyone else for that matter, because you know what? We really have to actually do this for ourselves and those of us that don't have a voice in the matter. And we need to create our own leadership and our own paths to determine how we see ourselves and how we see our collective role in all of this. There is a shift in the way our generation thinks, the way we think about ourselves, our relationship with other people, and the world at large. And I know it because I feel it. When I'm there, I feel it, and I'm right there with you. And we need to find that fire, whatever it is, even if you feel a spark of it, we need to find that fire, we need to hone in on that, we need to grow it and scale it up. Howard Thurman, a minister who helped found the first racially integrated multicultural church in the US, once said, "Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive." What makes all of you feel alive? What makes you come alive to life? For me, it has always been nature. and getting people to actually give a damn. And I gravitate towards outlets that can spring people into action in new ways. I gravitate towards good energy and good people, and that's what I hone in on. And part of that everyday journey is also to get as many of us as a group to find that great potential that lies in each and every one of us. So my background actually maybe, like John came up here and he told me my background's in environmental science, and I do some cause-related modeling on the side, and I do some TV stuff over there. But that sure as hell doesn't define who I am or why I am. Can you feel me on that distinction? It doesn't describe who I am or why I am and what I do. I'm not going to tell you what I do specifically. I'm going to tell you why I do what I do. Because you'll find out more about me, and when you say that to other people, they'll find out more about you in that way too. My passion falls into finding new avenues, new communication routes that invite different audiences into the environmental conversation. And fashion and media, for how frivolous and fickle it is, and it really is, has great opportunity, great mediagenic appeal that could draw people in, especially if you use it and build substantive measures and features and information behind it. This was my first foray into reaching outside traditional environmental audiences. And even though it's nice for all of us who think alike to stick together and be supportive of one another, I also believe that we constantly need to put ourselves outside our comfort zones and make a concerted effort to engage people who may not look like us, who may not think like us, who may not act like us. Because you know what? We might actually learn something. And we might surprise ourselves in the fact that we could, in ways that we can't even imagine. And we might actually get somewhere too. And I think that spells well. So I encourage you when you're here to reach outside into audiences that, if you're a thespian, maybe you go reach inside and figure out a little bit about sports. I mean, I don't know, that's part of the reason, but in an environmental field, you know, I really figured out that I am talking to a lot of the same people. What are new ways that we can engage different audiences? So this is probably actually a nice time to break. Before I start getting too intense or whatever, because that happens. But as it's been advertised around here, I'm working with Discovery's new foray into this space called Planet Green. And it's pretty cool, and it has the potential to be a heck of a lot cooler as more of us join the conversation. And I was pretty excited to work with them, not because they have a great TV and internet space, which they do, but also because they're looking to build youth strategy and strategy with my peers, and also they have a great educational system where they're looking to build sustainability programs, and they're the largest broadband network in schools at 1 million teacher impressions in 173 countries. So for me, that really excited me. In their educational system, they're looking to build green grant programs. So for schools that are looking to build sustainability into their core curriculum, kind of tune into that and kind of what we're doing, because that's something that we're going to start in 2009. But again, I think media is a great way to engage people and get people to think and inspire them and hopefully energize us to get involved, although the last one is always a little bit more difficult. But I'd like to take a break and actually go to some highlights that we're doing. This is going to be some commercials that I actually did. And does anybody know treehugger.com? It's like the #1 green site out there, the blog. Okay, so Discovery actually bought that, and so we've done a lot of crossover between Treehugger and Discovery, and they asked me to do some spots for their gift guide. So they wanted to push product, and I'm not really one for pushing product because I don't think it's going to save the world. But what I love to do is actually tie in something that's really tangible and tie it into something that's really greater, much greater than us. So if you want to roll the first one, if the sound's on, we'll break for some video. You know that we all love the great outdoors. Don't click that mouse button and go run outside yet, because you've got to check out these pictures of the Great International Rainforest. Now, when you think of rainforest, you're often thinking sunny, hot, tropical, but wait till you see these. It was cold and chilly and rainy. I ended up taking this Now jacket, which is made out of recycled plastic bottles. Great cut, great look. 88% of this forest had already been logged, and it stemmed from Alaska all the way down through California. But through a 7-year ongoing effort, the rest of the land will be set aside for conservation and ecosystem-based management programs. So this trip was spectacular because it was during the salmon run, so we got to see a lot of salmon and a lot of bears. 20% of the wild salmon population comes from this area, with 3,000 genetically distinct stocks. I saw somebody catch a salmon on television with bare hands, and I was like, I have to do that. But it's really hard to catch a salmon with your hand because during the salmon run, they're very, very slimy. You have trouble gripping them because they're digesting themselves, which is kind of disgusting, right? They digest themselves because they are using all of their energy to spawn. I stopped up in the river, and I just went. By the way, I was so much better than those grizzly bears. Totally overrated. I was like 5 pandas from grizzly bears. There was one time where I was a little freaked out. I was in a kayak, there was a grizzly bear right here, and there was about 5 grizzly bears on my left, and I was just like, oh my god, we're gonna get eaten. I hope this has inspired you to keep the environment in mind when you're shopping for the outdoor lover in your life. Okay, and if we have the second one, and the second one, Great Bear is something near and dear to my heart. As I mentioned, it's the last coastal contiguous temperate rainforest. And this one is also pretty cool. You may have seen this because it actually went viral, and CNN highlighted it too because they were in disbelief that this actually occurs. But go ahead.
Are you looking for a gift for the animal lover in your life? Check out elephantart.com. Asian Elephant Art and Conservation Project is a nonprofit art and conservation effort designed to raise awareness and funds for Asian elephants. They promote and sell paintings actually created by the elephants themselves. And a lot of those paintings are on dung paper. So yes, that's right, folks. Art from both ends of the elephant. So you get to check out Elsa. She's age 12 from Bali, Indonesia, and has been painting for 5 years. And Juan Pence hones in on her inner Surat. She is the first and only abstract pointillist elephant artist to date. Still to paper with dots and only dots, but she will not stop until the canvas is covered. And Paya, age 5, who specializes in painting self-portraits and fellow elephants. Biodiversity, or the richness of species, is really important for ecosystem health. So from ants to elephants, any gift related to or for our animal friends is a great way to appreciate that we human folks are part of a greater web of life. Does this look like an elephant? When I wear this shirt, I always get paintings for paintings. You've got to check this out. Go to elephantart.com.
So those are just some of the little ways that, you know, we try to tell this story differently. So here you have a product, whether it's an elephant shirt or a jacket that I wore with recycled plastic bottles, and we're trying to tell the story in a new and a different way, and trying to engage people and audiences in a new way. So the next ones that I'm actually going to play, I had been filming for a couple shows, and Planet Green's still trying to figure out what's the best shows for the audiences that they're reaching out to. And one of the ones I had reservations for, I actually had a film with Tommy Lee and Ludacris on who could be more green. And I was like, oh God, this is gonna be a trip. And I was right about the trip, but the fact was that it was actually pretty cool, and the production company was pretty cool. And has anybody actually seen Planet Green? Okay, so not everybody gets it, and we're still trying to figure out, but Discovery Home actually turned into Planet Green. So yeah, roll the first Tommy Lee thing right there. And you could increase the size down below.
I just met on some old rims I had. You call that eco? Yes, I do. This tattoo right here, made out of soy ink. That's nothing. You know the hotel we staying at? You remember the hot tub, right? Oh, yeah. I filled it up with all women instead of water. 7 days, no shower, 276 gallons. Wow. That's impressive. That's nasty, man.
Introducing Planet Green, the first operating TV network.
The Planet Green thing has been really amazing, and it's interesting to see how the programming is coming and how we could actually utilize the rest of the network through their education and through their youth strategy in new ways. And I like to be able to tell these different stories, and I think video could always come across in a new way that I can't really explain it. And I think visual images are quite powerful. And if you guys are interested in music or film and arts, there's so many different ways to actually work in those creative fields. So play the bank, and then the prison.
It's freaking freezing in here. It's like a meat locker.
I guess so.
Did you ever think that if everyone just wore a little less clothing, we wouldn't waste so much electricity cranking up the AC, right?
You might be alone on that one.
Really? Look, the security guard cares about the environment.
Nope, just naked.
Introducing Planet Green, the first all-green TV network.
And then the prison one. This is actually my favorite, but they said a lot of people didn't like this commercial, but I love it.
You know, I watched this show about how to reuse old stuff. Yeah? Yeah. So I made this shiv from an old toothbrush, and the glue is organic.
I carved mine from reclaimed hardwood.
This shovel's an old lunch tray.
Oh, locally sourced.
Nice.
Introducing Planet Green, the first all-green TV network.
So one of our premier shows on Discovery is Greensburg. And are you familiar with Greensburg, Kansas at all? All right, so for those of you who aren't, it's a whole story of a town building green. So I believe last year they got lifted by a tornado, all 1,400 houses just absolutely destroyed. And so Discovery came up with this idea with Leo DiCaprio to, like, maybe we could actually build this whole town green over again. And I really think this project is amazing because a lot of times in my own work you see towns, like I come from a small town. I don't know where you all are from or how big your town is, and then I know this is one of the larger schools and it would probably, you know, beat my town by tens of thousands of people, but I came from a town of 3,000, and a lot of them are saying, well, what do we have, what can we do? You know, we're just a small town, where do we find our place? And I really feel like communities could come together and work also on a national level, and they could really create a lot of, you know, I've seen small activists, small towns create a lot of stink in a lot of area. Like they really have an opportunity in this day and age to create something amazing. So, and what's amazing about Greensburg is that you have people, regular homeowners, that have become center stage and leaders and innovators in their own right on top of mind issues that are affecting us today. So just roll the tape on Greensburg.
This is bad. This is really bad.
What if your community literally disappeared? For the people of Greensburg, Kansas, it did.
Where is home? I don't know where it's at anymore.
But instead of an end, they saw a new beginning.
We will rebuild.
Not only for them,
We're creating a town and rebuild it green.
but for all of us.
Greensburg has the opportunity to be the first model green community in the world.
But you have no business pushing an agenda of your own.
I don't know what's right, but this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
If you'll dream a little bit, we have an opportunity here to show the world what we can do.
Greensburg's rebuilding. I think we'll be okay.
Welcome to Greensburg. This town will be the green model for communities throughout the United States and the rest of the world. What they're creating is inspirational, an astonishing new future, but it hasn't been easy, and they're only just beginning. Please join us as we build a green American dream.
could leave that in there. We'll play that later. Anyway, so that's one of our I think one of our best programs, because I really like how it comes into a community and really makes a difference in that community. It's a great way of using television in a good way while providing some decent TV. So, you know, I came out of college knowing that there was not one company or organization or project that really fit what I wanted to do. So I very much created the career path that I'm on today, and relied on some great people who believed in me along the way. And when you customize or create what you do, most often you have no roadmap. And the only guide that you have is your passion. And it will be your beacon in the fog for when times are tough, or when you get doubted, or when some people are second guessing you. And I assure you that will happen, and probably more often than you would like it. But when you show that passion, people will respond. Because not everyone feels it, but I think everybody wants to feel it at some point, and at least one point in their lives. And through hard work and ingenuity and passion comes opportunity, and opportunity begets opportunity. All of this actually really means is that for me, I very much created myself and created opportunities for myself and others to step up, define who I wanted to become instead of having other people define or label me. I am the person I am standing before you today, not because I am any better or any smarter or more successful or more interesting, but because I have worked hard and believed in my own abilities enough to stand here before you today and tell you that you could do the same with your lives, and that you could do very much better, and that you can lead and empower those around you. I don't want you to come away from this talk comparing yourself to me or the person next to you or the person next to him or her. I think most of our lives we try to compare ourselves, and we try to compare what our manhoods and womanhoods and whatever is under our hoods to other people, when what we really need to do, what I urge you to do, is just stop, if only for a moment, and see yourself in another person. Just see yourself in the person staring back at you. That is humanity. When you could see yourself in the eyes of another, that is when you can connect with that person on some level. And that is when you know you have felt humanity. And that is when real action and real systemic change can occur in yourself and the world around us. I've had many epiphanies in the last 2 decades or so that I've been on this planet, and many human moments. And one of them came my second semester when I started to invent the career path that I'm on. But the one I'm going to relay to you is a more personal connection and story with my friend Billy Parrish, who helped dream up and found the Energy Action Coalition, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with here, and has become the largest youth-led movement focused on climate change, and which has been the cornerstone of much of the climate change action that has happened on campuses, including yours. It's fascinating to me how one person can change the course of history, even if it's your own history. And we never think about how our lives will be relevant to someone else's, right? We don't often think about that. But it's something really to sit back and consider. Think about how much a person in your lives, or a place, or a time, shapes who we are or who we engender to become. I don't think we could even begin to realize, even in this second, in our short lives, how one person's actions or lack of action will reverberate throughout the rest of our lives. But you sure as hell know when it feels significant. And what you do with that significance, how you manifest it in your own lives, will determine who you want to become. Did anyone see Obama's acceptance speech? Who tuned into that? Some claps, right. One thing actually stood out for me there, and he said on a personal level that his father's absence probably shaped him more than him being there did. Now that's a strong realization, right? That would have really up a lot of kids. Like I would consider like your father's absence, and many of us may have felt that as a negative. But he used that significance, harnessed that absence, and turned that negative energy into positive energy, right? That's how he manifested itself. So how do you all do when you have challenges in your life, even if it's a personal, if it's a financial, if it's a family issue, maybe it's you couldn't get into the program that you wanted. How do you harness that negative and turn it into a positive? Back in February 2007, my work shifted a bit, and I had more opportunities to work on climate change issues through some new clients and just a growing base of friends within Energy Action. And I always knew that the movement was out there, and it related to my work, but I wasn't directly involved. You know, it was kind of here, and I was a little bit over here, and I had my ear to the ground, but I wasn't in it. And because I wasn't directly involved, I was actually not aware how big and how connected and how powerful or potentially powerful this movement actually is. That was until I called up Richard Graves, and some of you might actually know him. He used to be with Energy Action. Now he started his own thing called Fired Up Media. And I was specifically looking for a contact in Australia because one of our clients is Yale, and the president had just finished speaking at Davos on climate change, and he was going to Australia and wanted to challenge Australian universities to follow suit. But I realized, and I think what they realized, is they had no idea what was going on the ground in Australian colleges. So in enters Anna Rose, 24, vivacious young woman and founder of the Australian Youth Climate Coalition. Richard directed me to Energy Action's Google Excel sheet. That's all it was. It was a Google Excel sheet of climate change organizers, and when I tapped into that, it was like finding Facebook for the first time or something. I was like, oh my God, there was just people, like organizers, young people like you and I, from all points of the world who are on the ground working on these issues. And I was like, this is gold, this is amazing. You know, granted it's only contacts and you have to do something with those contacts, but that was at the point where I felt like this was really relevant. And a virtual spreadsheet in this day and age may not seem like a big deal, but that was the point when I suddenly felt connected to the movement. And all of a sudden, I saw my work in Yale attached to the work that was happening in Australia, and I was calling up publicity people, pitching Yale, but also pitching what Anna was doing on the ground, and they're like, you know, The Age and all the Australian papers were like, we had no idea this was going on, and I'm like, yeah, you know, check it. So it was so cool, like, to be able to actually do that. And I was it was at that point when I had this revelation that this movement, which is being led by us, is one of the greatest movements of all, really, it's one of the greatest movements, and I had just dipped my toe in the water, and I really was just blown away. And I've actually never met Anna Rose until much later, but one email and one phone call to her really brought me a step closer to the movement. And all of a sudden I started to feel this funny feeling. It was called ownership. I started to feel ownership in something. A sense of ownership. That's the key to revolutionary movements. Tapping the power of peer relationships. Feeling a sense of responsibility. You know, like you're one of the team. How many people have played sports or are in sports currently right now? Have you ever been in the position where you like lost the last 3 points of the game, or you missed that follow shot, or you kicked a bad goal, or maybe you actually made it? Who's felt that before? I surely have. All right, well, you know, that sense of loss or gain is a sense of ownership because you actually feel and you have stake in something that you care about. My sense of ownership in the youth climate movement may have waned quickly for reasons like, you know, getting caught up in schoolwork or getting caught up in your daily work and working on other environmental stuff, but it didn't because of one other significant moment. And it just goes to show you that sometimes you actually need a couple kicks in the pants to get out of bed. And, you know, for me, this is actually one of those moments. But that was, and I'm building these up like Google Spreadsheet, and this other one's an email, but this email from Billy Parrish, I wish I had saved it because it was so simple and it was so straightforward, and somebody reading over me would have been like, what's that all about? But I found this email to be monumental, and it was in regards to power shift. If anybody who went to power shift here? Okay, not many. Okay, so this is great when I'm going to be playing a little video. It was on power shift. It was the first youth conference and lobby day on climate change, which, by the way, was being planned as Thomas Friedman was penning his little Generation Q article. Anyway, Billy and the group decided that they couldn't wait until next year to do the conference, and the time was now. The email said something like this: what would you do if you had 5,000 young people at your fingertips? Simple as that. I've spent quite a bit of time over the last few years connecting with people in all of this, seeing real action occur on the international, national, and community and behavioral levels. For instance, I've witnessed more colleges, like University of Central Florida, sign up to the President's climate commitment, which pledges that campuses to work towards carbon neutrality. And believe me, if your university or college pledges to be carbon neutral, there are tons of ways that you could plug in. There's a lot of checks and balances in this system. And I just spent the first half of August at the Udall Environmental Scholarship Conference, something I highly suggest if you're a sophomore or junior to look into and you're interested in environmental or Native American tribal health policy, because it's a really cool network. They give you money, so if you're on a shoestring budget, which many of us are, it's great getting a $5,000 extra for college, but really the network is invaluable, and Energy Action was actually dreamed up there the year that I started. But in a few short years, I actually just went back for the first time, the conversation among young influencers has shifted. It shifted from what can we do to what can we do next. The movements that have already been built are constantly morphing and being redefined as topics like environmental and social justice, green jobs, and political action are being addressed. Power Shift, which was held in November of '07, was a real mind opener for me. And I'm going to play a couple of videos, and this doesn't do it justice, but it's a good overview of what was occurring there. So the green to DC would be great. It's a little news piece.
It's being called the largest green lobbying day ever on Capitol Hill.
Because the revolution starts right now. The revolution has started right now.
This has to be the spark, the starting boom of the green revolution. Like, this is the green industrial revolution that needs to happen if we're gonna survive.
Thousands of youth joined forces to demand immediate environmental policy changes from Congress.
We don't even consider ourselves lobbyists. We're just advocating for our rights as young people. We see this as our future.
The rally, organized by the Energy Action Coalition, is asking lawmakers to enact the One Sky Climate Initiative, which is based on 3 principles: a moratorium on coal, 30% carbon reduction by 2020, and an 80% reduction by 2050, and the creation of 5 million new green jobs.
Green jobs are people who put together, manufacture solar panels, install them, manage the wind farms, make buildings more sustainable, better construction that works toward the goal of going green.
The House Select Committee on Energy Independence and Global Warming listened to emotional testimonies on how climate change is affecting communities around the United States. This is Cheryl Lockwood, a Yupik Eskimo from St. Michael Village in Alaska. She shared her experiences as to how land erosion is causing her family's home to fall into the bay.
It's really scary to lose our tradition, our culture, and we've been living here for thousands of years, and it's not just that we're losing our food, it's losing our homes.
But regardless of where and how these students got their points across, they all shared the same message.
If we don't act now, who will? So if our Congress and our students and America does not act now, how is anything going to get accomplished when it comes to this cause?
And you just got to go in with the hard ask. Like, these are the 3 principles: 5 million new green-collar jobs, 80 by 2050 reductions in carbon emissions, and then the no coal. And just be firm on it and say, will you support this?
For Discovery News, I'm Casey D. Gardner.
And the next one, if you could play, it's the YouTube with the power shift one. What was actually really cool about this, we actually had an acclaimed filmmaker come in, and for those who wanted to apply, could be trained by the filmmaker and get these really cool cameras and film power shift and help edit it while you were there. And then 100 of us got actually these little flip video DVDs to start filming. So it was kind of cool to come back with like a training skill. So this next power shift one, and you can increase it to the full screen. And I'm sorry, we're a YouTube generation. The quality is quite low.
Y'all know that we are in a moment of history.
This is filmed by some of the students.
Where you at?
What I wanted and what I needed exceeded what I was looking for a way out, looking at the front doorway in anticipation, trying to gather my patience, cool, calm, collected, trying not to be abrasive, but the situation urging me on. I needed, I wanted, I got to have it, decent, I'm gone. My spirit is torn, the way you perform is of the abnormal, but I refuse to let you push me out my physical form. Seek, ease your mind, and in a matter of time, no weed, no wine, no pills will alter the mind. You either have it, you don't, you either will or you won't. You're providing the opportunity.
We will stop global warming. Make some noise.
What you see is what you get. There is no false pretense. It's just me, myself, my rhymes. That's all. That's it.
Y'all know that we are in a moment of history.
So that was a little, I cannot even begin to capture like the energy that was there. But when I look at these things and when I'm experiencing, in these positions, and when you were probably there, I have to say that no, we are not a Generation Q, as some of us and some of the formerly youthful would like to suggest. We are a generation that is just getting started. What our peers and what we are creating are roiling, boiling magma coursing deep beneath the technological crust of wikis, Google Docs, email strings, and social and college networks. We are all little volcanoes erupting in all corners of the globe, beginning to get our voices heard, whether it's blogging or organizing or speaking or writing or videoing or lobbying or conferencing. From Australia to North America, China to Africa to Europe, connected by this magmatic movement, connected by what makes us feel alive. As I mentioned, Power Shift was held back in November of '07, and it was a real mind opener for me. And listen, I've been going to a lot of conferences, and you've probably seen a lot of speakers, and you just know when something is good and different. And this was good and different for a lot of reasons. And for one, it was run by us, your peers. It was getting young citizens into the conversation. It drew 6,000 teens, tweens, and 20-somethings from 300 congressional districts, 50 states, 43 nations. Secondly, it made an effort to include affinity groups, which we don't always get to see. I'm talking African Americans, Latinos and Latinas, First Nations and Native Americans, LGBT community. These are people who at one point didn't have a place in the environmental conversation, but are now finding a voice due to topics that are made top of mind by them because it matters. Topics that connect us to the movement in new and different ways, like issues of health and wellness and social justice issues, green-collar jobs, which you saw here, and I think this is going to be, for anyone who wants to get into the movement, this is something that's going to be very top of mind and on the tip of many presidential tongues. These are jobs that can't be outsourced because they need to be done in the community. Jobs that will build a clean energy economy and pathways out of poverty. Jobs that provide training programs with a host of skills like weatherizing homes, mine reclamation. I'm from northeastern Pennsylvania. We need a lot of mine reclamation. Installing solar panels, and even new entrepreneurship, new inventions of careers in this space. To people like us who are coming into the workforce, but also people in inner city and rural areas who need the work the most. In fact, on August 13th, this August 13th, the Department of Labor was being pushed to move quickly to implement the Green Jobs Act of 2007 that is sitting in Congress right now, which will immediately establish an energy efficiency and renewable energy worker training program. Now, I don't know where all of you are from. Some of you are from here. But the thought of money going into your community, like my community or your community, to train workers to do good, green, clean jobs that need to be done in the new economy anyway, sounds kind of nice. And if you're curious and plugging into any of that, hit me up later. Or also, there's a National Green Jobs Day that's coming up on September 27th. And I went on the website yesterday, and I don't see one actually happening in Orlando. So that's kind of cool. You could go on that. Van Jones, who is the African-American who spoke up there, is an incredible social justice activist. And he helped spearhead the National Green Jobs Day of Action. And it's similar to the One Sky campaign, where you kind of host an event, you kind of take pictures, and you send it to your representative. So that's on September 27th. And you could go to greenjobsnow.com, and you could roll the video and kind of see what's going on there. But going back after my long tangent on green jobs, the third reason why PowerShift was amazing to me, and this is important, it revolved around direct action. It gave everyone there the skills, the tools, but mainly the confidence to go back into our schools, into our communities, into our governments, and enact positive change. Whether that was learning how to lobby, which for me that was the first time I actually learned how to lobby, or whether it was a filmmaker putting a camera in somebody's hand and teaching them how to edit it. Leadership will come out of the actions that you create. That's a really important thing. Leadership will come out of the actions that you create. It was a really important thing that I learned from a woman by the name of Dorothy Cotton, who happened to be Martin Luther King Jr.'s right-handed woman and the education director at the SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Council. And she said, you know, when we look at the civil movement, which was a movement that was run by 20-year-olds, really, it was. She said most people remember the marches, but she said what that march was actually training programs, workshops, training people how to be leaders as opposed to just followers. And that for me is what PowerShift was. It just wasn't a conference. It wasn't somebody talking at you. It was a conference that had direct action. We actually have some direct action, if you choose that mission, outside with Focus the Nation from UCF here. So we'll mention that again towards the end of the speech because we are nearing the end. Fourth reason why PowerShift was so cool was the fact that it was the first time that young people like ourselves testified to the government on climate change. And these are not young people who are paid lobbyists. We are merely there fighting for our democratic rights. And that was immense because what the whole Hill was talking about was the fact that there was 6,000 people coming. We even had Nancy Pelosi speak at PowerShift, and I don't think she was prepared for it because you had 6,000 teens, tweens, and 20-somethings staring back at her. And I don't think her people actually prepared for her for that, because when she was up there, even though she was like mimicking what we were saying, she was scared a little bit. And she was giving us a canned speech, and we were like, we don't do the canned speech thing, especially not right after Van Jones, social justice activist, comes up and is like spilling out his heart to people. And she comes up there and is talking about like a canned speech, something that we didn't want to hear. And I could feel her knees shaking, but I think she warmed up towards the end and started to realize what we really wanted, because what we really wanted was we wanted some real up in that room. You know, we need to start getting real. We need to start keeping it fresh, and we need that, because you know what? That's part of who we are, and that's part of what our generation can bring to the table. And we need to continue to shape and evolve these conversations and these actions. Anyone watch Tim Gunn and Heidi Klum's Project Runway? Right? Some hands went shooting up. What does Tim Gunn always say? What's his? Make it work. Make it work. It's a great phrase. We got to make our schools, our communities, and our governments work. It needs to work for us and all of us, now and into the future. And it's not going to happen if we don't get involved. The next PowerShift is slated. It's underway from February 27th to March 2nd in DC. And oftentimes, I talked to one girl here who couldn't actually be here today, but she said she's bringing 200 people from UCF with her. And believe me, I know what it's like trying to get shit done on a shoestring budget, because it's all been done, but believe me, it is doable, especially if you want it enough. It just has more challenges at what you need to do. So a lot of students I know get sponsored not by their parents, but from organizations, and they raise money, or from local businesses. And we are expecting not 6,000 what we got, which was like 1,000 more than we expected, but we expected to get 15,000 this time around at 2009. And what energizes me about this movement, it is because it's created by us and for us. And it will continue to shapeshift as more of us enter into the conversation. In my opinion, the greatest natural resource that is going to waste is not our forests and our water, but it is the energy and the passion and the life that lies in each and every single one of us. I want you to tap into that energy. Make it show through your studies, your extracurricular activities, your work, and your life. This is no different whether you are rich or poor, whether you're black, whether you're white, you're red, you're purple, you're green, or otherwise. It's all the same. Do yourself a favor and associate with people who will inspire that in you, and tap into your fullest potential. Define yourself. Don't confine yourself, and don't let other people confine you. Empower people to empower more people. Make opportunities for yourself and others to acquire the tools and the skills, and most importantly, the confidence in going forward. Embrace your time here at college. Tap into the programs that they have for you, but don't be afraid to actually create something on your own. The world needs leaders like all of you. Go forth in your life with vigor and passion. Keep it fresh, like I said, keep it real, because that's what we're the best at. Strive to see yourself in every single person that you meet. And don't just focus on the issue or the major that you are working on. Know the goal that you are working towards. Let me repeat that again, because it's a really important distinction. Don't just focus on the major that you are working on. Know the goal that you are working towards and the solution that you are working for. Let that be your guiding light, and go forward in life as a human being. Thank you very much.